Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The forest of Eldergrove stood timeless, its ancient trees stretching high into the sky, their branches entwined like a fortress of nature. It was said that the very air within the forest shimmered with magic, alive with whispers from the past. Legend spoke of a secret hidden deep within Eldergrove, an artifact so powerful that its misuse could bring about the end of the world. Few dared to seek it, and fewer still survived the attempt. At the heart of Eldergrove, a group of warriors known as the Wardens guarded this secret with their lives. These warriors, born of both human and elven blood, had been chosen to protect the forest's balance. Lyriel, their leader, stood at the edge of the forest, her silver hair fluttering in the wind as her sharp eyes scanned the horizon. A storm was brewing. She could feel it in the subtle shift of the forest's energy, in the way the animals moved restlessly through the trees. "Adventurers are coming," Lyriel said, her voice steady but tinged with concern. Behind her, Eldon, her second in command, approached with a scowl on his face. He was a skilled warrior, his movements quick and precise, but he carried with him a deep mistrust of outsiders. "They always come," he muttered, drawn by greed and stories of power. "They never learn." Lyriel nodded. She had seen it countless times. Humans, desperate for wealth or immortality, would venture into the forest, seeking the heart of the earth, the ancient artifact said to grant unimaginable power. They would try to take it for themselves, ignoring the warnings, the sacrifices that had been made to keep the balance. "We'll warn them," Lyriel said. "But we must be prepared." Eldon's eyes narrowed. "They won't listen. They never do." "I know," Lyriel admitted, her voice soft. She turned toward the forest, feeling the weight of her duty. The balance between the world and the forest was delicate, and she had sworn to protect it, no matter the cost. Far from the forest, a group of adventurers had gathered in a small village at the edge of Eldergrove. Marcus, their leader, stood over a table in the dimly lit tavern, studying an ancient map with fevered intensity. He was a tall man, his face lined with the wear of countless expeditions, but his eyes burned with ambition. "This is it," Marcus said, tapping the map with his finger. "The forest of Eldergrove. The heart of the earth lies within its depths." Around him, his crew listened in awe. There was Turin, a sorcerer with dark, sunken eyes and a dangerous hunger for power, and Aaliyah, a sharp-witted thief who lived for the thrill of the chase. The others were mercenaries, men who fought for gold and glory, their loyalty only as strong as their next payday. "If we find it," Aaliyah said, her voice low, "we'll be unstoppable." Marcus smiled, leaning back in his chair. "Not just unstoppable, immortal." Turin's lips twisted into a smile, his fingers tracing the edge of the map. "We'll need to be careful. The forest is said to be alive, guarded by ancient warriors who won't hesitate to kill intruders." Marcus waved a hand dismissively. "Guardians or not, the heart will be ours." The following morning, they set out, making their way to the outskirts of Eldergrove. As they approached the edge of the forest, a palpable sense of magic filled the air. The trees towered above them, their bark glowing faintly in the sunlight. It was as if the forest itself was watching, waiting. "We're being watched," Turin said, his voice a low whisper. Aaliyah's hand hovered near her dagger, her eyes scanning the tree-line. "I don't like this." Before they could take another step, the air shifted, and figures emerged from the shadows, tall, graceful warriors with sharp features and silver hair. They moved with the fluidity of the forest itself, their weapons gleaming in the soft light. At their head was Lyriel. "This is sacred ground," Lyriel said, her voice firm. "Turn back now, and no harm will come to you." Marcus stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "We mean no harm. We only seek the heart of the earth. Let us pass." Liriel's expression hardened. "The heart is not for mortals to claim. It is the lifeblood of this forest, the balance between all living things. If you take it, the world will fall into chaos." Turin sneered. "Chaos is just another word for opportunity." Before Liriel could respond, Eldon stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Leave now, or face the consequences." Marcus's hand tightened on his sword. "I think we'll take our chances." The tension snapped like a bowstring. Eldon surged forward, his blade flashing as he struck at Marcus. The adventurers scattered, drawing their weapons as the wardens descended upon them. The battle was fierce and swift, the forest itself seeming to join in, its branches lashing out at the intruders. Liriel fought with a grace that belied her strength, her sword cutting through the air with precision. But even as the wardens held their ground, Marcus and his crew fought with a desperation fueled by greed. They retreated deeper into the forest, using the dense foliage to their advantage. "We can't let them reach the heart," Eldon growled, wiping blood from his brow. Liriel nodded, her heart heavy. "We'll stop them. But we must remember, violence alone will not protect this forest." Eldon's gaze darkened. "You're too soft, Liriel. They won't stop until they've taken everything." That night, as the adventurers made camp deeper within the forest, Marcus studied the map once more. His crew was battered and weary, but the thought of the heart kept them moving. "We need an advantage," Marcus said, his eyes on Turin. "Your magic, can it help us?" Turin's smile was cold. "I can weaken the forest's defenses, but it will come at a cost." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Do it." The next morning, as the adventurers pressed forward, Turin began to weave his dark magic. The forest trembled under the weight of his spells, the trees groaning as their ancient protections faltered. The wardens could feel it, the shift in the forest's energy, the way its natural defenses were being corrupted. "We're running out of time," Liriel said, her voice tight with urgency. "The forest is weakening." Eldon clenched his fists. "We should have killed them when we had the chance." "No," Liriel said, shaking her head. "We can still stop this without bloodshed." Eldon's eyes flashed with anger. "You're naive, Liriel. They'll destroy everything if we don't act." As they argued, the forest's ancient spirit, Silva, appeared before them. Silva was a being of pure magic, her form shifting like the wind through the trees. She had watched over the forest for millennia, and her presence filled the air with a deep sense of calm. "The balance is fragile," Silva said, her voice like the rustle of leaves. "If the heart is taken, the forest, and the world, will fall." Liriel bowed her head. "I will do whatever it takes to protect it." Silva's gaze turned to Eldon. "Violence may seem like the answer, but it will only bring more destruction." Eldon gritted his teeth. "What do you suggest, then? Let them take the heart?" Silva's form shimmered. "There is another way. But it will require great sacrifice." As Silva's words hung in the air, Marcus and his crew reached the heart of the forest. Before them stood the heart of the earth, a glowing stone that pulsed with life. It was embedded in the ground, surrounded by ancient roots that seemed to cradle it like a precious gem. "We found it," Marcus whispered, his eyes wide with awe. But before he could take another step, Liriel appeared, her sword drawn. "Stop. If you take the heart, you will doom us all." Marcus turned to face her, his expression hard. "I have no choice. My family is dying. I need this power to save them. Liriel's heart ached at his words, but she knew the truth. The heart is not meant for mortals. Its power will corrupt you. Before Marcus could respond, Turin stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. Enough of this. He raised his hands, dark magic swirling around him as he cast a spell meant to shatter the forest's defenses and claim the heart for himself. The ground shook as Turin's magic clashed with the forest's ancient protections. The roots that had cradled the heart began to wither, and the air grew thick with a dark, oppressive energy. No! Liriel cried, realizing what was happening. She rushed forward, but Turin's magic was too strong. In that moment, Liriel made her decision. She stepped into the center of the battle, her body glowing with the light of the forest. Drawing on her connection to the heart, she poured all of her life force into it, merging with the ancient artifact. The forest responded, its magic surging through her, cleansing the darkness that Turin had unleashed. The roots around the heart began to regrow, stronger than before, and the air filled with the sound of the forest's song, a melody of life and renewal. Turin's magic faltered, and he fell to his knees, his power drained. Marcus watched in shock as Liriel's form began to fade, her body becoming one with the forest. "Why?" he whispered, tears filling his eyes. Liriel's voice was soft, barely a whisper in the wind. "To protect what is sacred." As the last of Liriel's light faded, the forest fell silent. The wardens stood in solemn silence, mourning the loss of their leader. Eldon, now the new leader, placed his hand on the heart, vowing to protect it in her memory. Marcus, humbled by Liriel's sacrifice, turned to leave the forest. He had come seeking power, but what he found was something far more valuable, a lesson in the importance of harmony with nature, and the cost of greed. As he and his crew disappeared into the shadows, the forest began to heal. The trees grew taller, the air grew lighter, and the ancient magic of Eldergrove returned to its natural balance. Far above, the spirit of Silva watched over the forest, her presence a reminder that as long as there were those willing to protect it, the secret of the mysterious forest would remain safe. As Marcus and his crew disappeared into the shadows of the forest, Eldon remained standing near the heart of the earth, his hand still resting on its surface. The weight of Liriel's sacrifice pressed down on him, heavier than any battle he'd ever fought. The glow of the heart pulsed beneath his fingers, its energy calming, as if acknowledging the new responsibility he bore. The forest had quieted, the tension lifted, but the lingering traces of Turin's dark magic still clung to the air, a reminder that threats to Eldergrove would not cease. Silva's spirit flickered softly in the distance, her watchful presence a guardian's reassurance. Eldon inhaled deeply, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He wasn't Liriel, and the forest would soon find out just how different his leadership would be. The rest of the wardens began to gather around the heart, their eyes filled with grief and uncertainty. They had lost their leader, their guide, and now they looked to Eldon to fill the void. He clenched his fists at his sides. Liriel had always believed in peace, in negotiation, in finding harmony where he saw only conflict. And while he respected her ideals, he had never shared her faith that outsiders would heed their warnings. Eldergrove was safe now, but he knew that greed, ambition, and the lust for power would always draw more adventurers, more sorcerers, more enemies. And when they came, he wouldn't be as forgiving as she had been. He turned to face his warriors, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "We will protect the forest, as we always have. But we will not hesitate next time." Liriel believed in mercy, but mercy cost her life. "We cannot afford that again." There were murmurs of agreement, though some of the younger wardens exchanged uneasy glances. Eldon was harsher, more pragmatic, and they knew his leadership would bring a new era to their protection of the forest. Still, they were loyal, and they would follow his command. Silva's spirit drifted closer, her ethereal form glowing softly in the dimming light of the forest. "The balance has been restored, for now," she said, her voice like the whisper of leaves in a gentle breeze. "But be cautious, Eldon. The forest is alive, and it does not respond well to harshness. Protection comes not from fear, but from understanding." Eldon met her gaze, his jaw tight. Understanding didn't save Lyriel. Silva's expression didn't change, but the air around them seemed to hum with an ancient wisdom. The forest chose Lyriel for a reason. Her sacrifice was not in vain. You must remember that it is not power that sustains Eldergrove, but the harmony between all living things within it. Eldon didn't respond. He turned away from Silva, walking deeper into the forest, his mind racing. Harmony, peace, those ideals had cost them their leader. He wouldn't make the same mistake. The days that followed were quiet, the forest returning to its natural state. The trees flourished, the magic that pulsed through Eldergrove stronger than ever. But the wardens could feel a shift in the air, a tension that hadn't been there before. Eldon's leadership was different. There was a rigidity to the way he commanded the wardens now, a clear line between friend and foe that Lyriel had always blurred. He kept watch over the heart, rarely leaving its side, determined to ensure that no one, not even the forest itself, would threaten it again. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest was bathed in twilight, a soft rustle in the underbrush caught Eldon's attention. His hand instinctively went to his weapon, but before he could draw it, a figure stepped into view. It was Marcus. Eldon's eyes narrowed. "You've come back." Marcus raised his hands in a gesture of peace, his expression worn and weary. "I'm not here to fight. I came to speak." Eldon's grip on his weapon didn't loosen. "Speak, then. But know that if you're here for the heart, I won't hesitate to kill you." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not here for the heart. Not anymore. I've seen what it does, the power it holds. I don't want that. I came to thank Lyriel." Eldon's heart clenched at the mention of her name. "Lyriel is gone," he said, his voice hard. "She sacrificed herself to protect the heart." "I know," Marcus said quietly, stepping closer. "And I owe her my life for that. She could have killed me. You could have killed me. But she chose to let me go, to let me see the error of my ways. I thought I needed the heart to save my family, but now I understand. Lyriel showed me that some things are bigger than any one person's desires." Eldon remained silent, his mind racing. He didn't trust Marcus, didn't trust his sudden change of heart. But there was something in the man's voice, something in the way he spoke of Lyriel, that gave him pause. Marcus took a deep breath. "I've returned to help, if you'll allow it. I want to protect this forest, to make sure that no one else makes the same mistakes I did." Eldon's instincts screamed at him to turn Marcus away, to protect the forest at all costs. But something held him back. Maybe it was Lyriel's influence, still lingering in the back of his mind. Maybe it was the way Marcus spoke of sacrifice, of understanding. Whatever it was, Eldon found himself hesitating. "You think you can help protect the forest?" Eldon asked, his voice measured. Marcus nodded. "I know the way men like me think. I can help keep others away, help them understand the cost of their greed before they make the same mistakes I did." Eldon studied him for a long moment, weighing his options. Trust didn't come easily to him, and especially not when it came to outsiders. But Marcus wasn't just any outsider. He had seen the power of the heart firsthand, had survived when others had perished. Perhaps there was something to be said for that. "Very well," Eldon said at last, though his voice was still guarded. "You can stay. But know this, if you betray us, if you even think of going near the heart, I will end you myself." Marcus gave a solemn nod. "I understand. I won't let you down." Over the next several weeks, Marcus became a fixture in Eldergrove. The wardens were wary of him at first, but gradually, they began to accept his presence. He worked alongside them, learning the ways of the forest, helping to reinforce its natural defenses. And true to his word, he became a voice of reason, warning off would-be adventurers before they could get too close. But even as Marcus integrated into their ranks, the tension between him and Eldon never fully dissipated. Eldon couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus's motives, no matter how sincere they seemed, were still rooted in selfishness. He kept a close eye on him, always waiting for the moment when Marcus would reveal his true intentions. One evening, as they patrolled the outskirts of the forest, Marcus spoke up. "You don't trust me, do you?" Eldon didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, but firm. "I don't trust anyone who comes seeking power in this forest." Marcus glanced at him, his brow furrowed. "I'm not seeking power anymore. You know that." "Do I?" Eldon shot back. "You were willing to risk everything for the heart once. How do I know you won't do it again?" Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I've seen what happens when you chase power. I've seen the cost. And I've seen what it takes to protect something worth more than power." He paused, his gaze softening. "I saw it in Lyriel." Eldon's grip on his weapon tightened. "Don't you dare speak her name." "I'm not trying to disrespect her," Marcus said quickly. "But I think Lyriel knew that I could change. That's why she let me live." Eldon stopped walking, turning to face Marcus. "Lyriel believed in second chances. But I'm not her. I don't believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt." Marcus met his gaze, unwavering. "Maybe that's why she sacrificed herself. Because she knew someone had to take her place, to continue believing in that balance." Eldon's jaw clenched, his heart heavy with the weight of his own doubts. He wanted to dismiss Marcus's words, to reject the idea that there was still room for trust, for hope. But deep down, he couldn't deny that something had shifted since Marcus's return. The forest was quieter now, the threats fewer. Perhaps it was because of Marcus's efforts, or perhaps it was because of Lyriel's enduring influence. Whatever the reason, Eldon found himself at a crossroads. He could continue down the path of suspicion, of guarding the heart with an iron fist, or he could take a step toward the ideals that Lyriel had championed, ideals of harmony, of understanding. Eldon exhaled, the tension leaving his body as he spoke. "We'll see, Marcus. We'll see." As they resumed their patrol, the forest seemed to hum with life around them, its ancient magic watching, waiting. The balance, for now, was restored. But Eldon knew that the true test of their resolve, of his leadership, had only just begun.